So today you do kind of need a couple of things. If you don't have a block, and it might even be more comfortable instead of using a block to take like a rolled up towel, or if you have like whatever small cushion you might sit on, that'll work too. We'll start there. That should be the main thing that you might use a block for, so you could have like both just in case. And then we're gonna use a strap. We're gonna do some hamstring opening, and when we do hamstring opening, it's so that we can do heart opening, which is one of like my big focus. I've been doing a lot of inquiry and a lot of like journaling and processing things, and I've been doing a lot of heart-centered work lately. I kind of touched on that a bit, and it's been very interesting, like being in this like expansive space, and like what my ideas about the world have been, and what the ideas of what I think I want in my world. And I was going through this, and it just kind of like, like letting words and thoughts come out. And I was thinking about this idea that I've always had, and I don't think it's just my idea. I think many of us would agree with it to some extent, like that statement that love is not always enough. Like, that doesn't necessarily solve everything or fix everything. But then I was like, like if I'm making bread, yeast is not the only thing that you need to make bread, but it's a lot fluffier and better if you have a yeasty bread, right? Like allowing the rising and the expanding. And I don't know, I thought that was cute, and maybe a nice thing to consider, that, we do kind of need the mixture, and we need all things, but the yeast of love is a pretty great ingredient. So we'll work on that expansive rising space in our hearts today. Go ahead and take your index finger and your thumb together, the spot at the base of your thumb. Bring that to the center of your forehead, brushing outwards towards your temples. And then going from the sides of your nose out to your temples. From your temples down to your chin. And from the sides of your nose down to your chin along your laugh lines. And massaging the soft spot behind your ears. Working upwards to the bony spot and lifting up on your head from that point. Taking another nice deep breath in with this lift in your spine. Keeping the lift as you exhale and drop your hands down into your lap. If it feels comfortable, let your palms rest open. In this place where we can still take things in. We can hold things, we can experience them, but it's not grasping, clinging. Just being expansive and ready for it, whatever it is. Taking another deep breath in through your nose. Big exhale through the mouth. Again, like that. For 3 ohms. Starting to blink your eyes open. We're gonna start off with a supported fish pose. So this is where I said you might use a block, and it might be a lot more comfy if you want to just give yourself the space to come down instead of on a harder block, but to come down onto like a rolled up towel, or if you have your cushion, if that's what you use, to fold it over. So you get to decide exactly what you're gonna do with that. I'm gonna use block, because I'm looking forward to this all day. You're gonna lay down so that whatever you're using to support your rib cage is lined up underneath the center of it. So you should be able to feel like the center of your shoulder blades are there. Now, if you're using one thing, it's like leave it too far away, you might take the other one and put it behind your head so that there's a little bit less room for your head to drop down. You can also take your hands behind your head. If you need more support or less shoulder work, leave your elbows pointing up. That could help. And then if you get here and you feel like you're not quite in the right place, you might need to do some shifting, maybe roll yourself over and try again. We're gonna be here for a while. So if you're like, I don't know how much longer I can hold this, it would be better to go and find a slightly different space for you. And maybe that's like giving up on the block idea. I'm just letting something softer be underneath your ribs. If this is too much with the arms, like so, maybe you bring them down, hands on your belly. And this is where we're kind of just letting the yeast sit, yeah? Letting the bread sit, allowing it time to react, to expand, and kind of feel the heart space start to unwind and open the longer that we're here. We'll be here for about another 5 breaths. Trying to relax into this space as much as you can. And then if your hands went anywhere but behind your head, you're just going to grab them back there and then lift yourself up, and then you can roll over or sit all the way up. Totally up to you how much you want to put into that. If you had a pillow, go ahead and set it off to your side. If you have a block, you're going to bring it into your hands. If you had a pillow and you don't have a block, you're going to take your hands, you're going to make Charlie's Angels fingers for this. And you want to make sure there's plenty of room back behind you to extend your arms. So we'll go back down onto the floor. So it's either Charlie's Angels, hands up in the air, or you're holding the block on its longest setting. And you're going to wrap your belly down towards the floor. And keep it wrapped in. As you inhale, reach the block as far back behind you as you can. And then exhale, take it back up above your face. So not worried about getting to the ground, but reaching back. So you're really feeling some length in the side bodies and some power right in the middle of your belly. Just keep moving with your breath. Reaching for the wall, not the floor. We'll do 2 more. And then rest your arms down for a moment. Maybe wiggle the shoulders out a little bit. You can do that again with the feet on the floor, or we'll do 3 as slow as possible with the shins parallel. So we're all going to go real slow, which is going to be much more challenging, and you might have the shins parallel to the floor, kind of parallel to the floor. I'm getting all like nerdy about that line now. So reach your hands or your block up, and as you inhale, you're going to reach it back. Exhale, slow, bring it back up. And you can, of course, go at your own pace. Reach back, though, as slow as you can or want to, as slow as you can to bring it back up. Keeping that belly wrapped in. One more time. Inhale, slow. Exhale, slow. And then set your feet down. Go ahead and take that block and move it off to your side. We're gonna do some quad stretching here. If you take your right foot and you slide it down in the space in between your left foot and hip, and you roll over a little bit more to your right foot, you can usually bring that right, or to your right hip, you can usually bring that right knee down. So you see how my left hip is lifted. That's gonna let me have this knee down without having it hover up into space precariously. Now, after you've been here for a little bit, this left hip might start to rest down a little bit more, but try to keep that right knee down. What you might do is hold on with your hand or just use your ankle to keep that foot there. And then if you want a little bit more, you can scooch your right knee a little bit closer to your left foot. If you want, you can take the right arm back behind your head. A bit of a yoga knot here that you've tied with yourself. Just 2 more breaths. And if any of those were a little bit too much extra, just going back to something that felt a little bit easier to breathe in. Big exhale. And then releasing your right arm, sliding that right leg out. So you're coming back to both feet being planted. And then the left foot is going to slide underneath, and you can use the foot to hook it. You can grab it with your hand. You could bring it closer to your knee if that's working for you. Maybe the left arm comes back behind the head. Maybe the right hip never comes fully down to the ground, and that's fine. But maybe over time it gets closer. You wiggle the left elbow over a little bit more to the right if you want extra side space. 2 more breaths. And start to release your left arm and your left leg, coming back to the center. Wiggle your feet out a little bit wider, let your knees knock against each other, just giving your low back a little bit of room. And then we're gonna come up into bridge pose. So bring your feet in a little bit closer together, maybe snuggle them a little bit closer towards your hips. Feet still about hip width apart, though. Wiggle your shoulders underneath your back. Press down in the arms, lift your hips up, and then see if you can wiggle those shoulders in a little bit more. Maybe you hold hands underneath your back. Try to push down into all 4 corners of your feet. Big breath in. And then exhale, releasing your hips down. Take a big inhale, big exhale, and then push down in your feet. Lift the hips up again, interlacing the hands if that works for you. Give a good snuggle of those shoulder blades underneath the heart so the heart can lift more. Soften your jaw. See if the heart lifts more as you inhale. And then relax your shoulders and relax your hips down. Bring your knees into your chest. Give yourself a hug. I totally forgot I laid down at the other end of my mat, so I have to get up and get my strap. If you have to get up and get your strap, go ahead and give yourself this little cue of a little tuck and roll up there, and then we'll find that we'll come onto our backs. If yours is nearby you, then you are more well set up than I. I'm gonna take the strap around the bottom of the right foot, and then loop the ends of the strap up. We're gonna go straight leg to start off with, because that can be fairly unsatisfying. After that, we'll work into a bent leg and get the leg maybe a little bit closer to the body. But start off 3 deep breaths from this point with the leg really, really straight. Inhale, exhale. Feel the foot pressing out and away from you. Inhale, exhale. 1 more breath. And relax that leg.
just start to slide the left leg a little bit or a lot of it away from you. It doesn't matter which it is. You can leave this right leg bent and then see about bringing the leg in closer towards you, just exploring the space that's there, not trying to rip the hamstring off. Sometimes a little bit more satisfying to relax the leg and draw it in. And then give it a rest. So you're gonna take your both ends of your strap into your left hand and then move the foot a little bit further away. That's gonna give usually a little bit more space to open up this outer leg line. Turn the knee and toe out to the right, and then you guide from the heel first over towards the left, getting this IT band stretched out. And sometimes you gotta kind of like try to find it. You don't really wanna cross the leg over too much. It should be nowhere near the floor. 2 more breaths. Use your right hand to keep this hip down. And then coming back, releasing the strap and switching over to the other side. So take the strap along the bottom of your left foot, wrap it up, right foot's on the floor, and we make the left leg just as straight as possible. So you're thinking of pushing that foot out into the strap, hopefully not tensing up your jaw muscles or the fronts of your shoulders as you do so. Big breath in, big breath out. One more inhale, big exhale, and then relax that leg, so I'm not working nearly as hard to keep it straight. And you slide the right leg out as much as you want to or as much as you can, and then you bring maybe the leg a little bit closer to you, but don't worry too much if it doesn't change. We're thinking less of that intense straightening and action and more of just a softening inwards here. One more round of breath. Find something to soften as you exhale. And then softening your grip on the strap, you're gonna let the leg move forward. That's the right hand I'm gonna hold on to this strap with. Turn the knee and the toe out to the left, lead with the heel over towards the right. Use your left hand to keep this hip rooted downwards. Good. Big stretch on that outer line of the hip. One more breath in. Big breath out. And then coming back up, you're gonna release the strap off of your foot and then roll over onto your belly. We're gonna come into Sphinx pose. Lining up elbows underneath shoulders, palms down, your collarbones broadening, and look over your right shoulder. Make sure that your left shoulder is still pulling back. Exhaling. And then starting to look over your left shoulder, keep that right shoulder actively pulling back. One more exhale. And then returning over towards the front. I'm gonna go ahead and lower down for a moment and relax the lower back. Maybe wiggle those hips around a bit. Now, if you are finding often that it is not so easy to grab your foot behind you, go ahead and grab your strap. You might roll over, hook it around your right ankle, and then come back to your belly like so. Yeah? If you find it fine to hold onto your foot, tangled mess here, you're gonna just reach back and hold onto it. But we're gonna come up onto our elbows here. You're gonna turn your left hand over towards your right elbow, kick the right foot up into your bum, and then reach back and try to hold onto that foot. Now you're gonna push down into the left elbow so the chest stays lifted. You might be using the strap to hold onto this foot. Be mindful of your knee as it creeping out to the side. You do want to try to magnetize, at least with some amount of attention, your thighs towards each other. And then start to turn your heart forward. And start off by pulling the heel in just as comfortably close to your hip as you can get it. So we're just working through some soft, easy space here, not trying to go too wild. And then see if you can get a little bit more lift in your heart by pushing the foot back against your hand or your strap. You saw my chest lifted up there. Big breath in. Big breath out. And then gently relax that foot and release it back. So that foot kicking back into the hand really kind of supercharges that lift into the chest, yeah? So we'll come back to center and then taking the right hand over, knowing you might need to kind of switch over to using the strap on the other foot at this point. Now bend into that leg. Your right hand is over towards where the left elbow just was. The left hand is going to go back and grab your foot. And you're going to push down in the right elbow and then start to bring the heel towards your hip, just exploring the space that is available to you. And then perhaps if you feel okay with it, you might start pushing that foot back, which lifts and expands the heart forward. So we're getting more of that opening and rising in the chest. One more breath in. Exhale. And then relax that leg. Release it. Come on down onto your belly. Lay flat. Rest a cheek or a chin. Wiggle your hips, maybe your heels side to side. And then start to bring your hands in by your low ribs. Slide your legs maybe a little bit closer to each other. Reach back strong through your toes, maybe pressing the tops of the feet into the floor as you rise forward into Cobra Pose. Take another inhale. Exhale, maybe your legs lift up, which might lift your heart up more, who knows. One more breath in. Exhale, lower down. Pick your belly and your hips up. See if you can push yourself up in a table pose. And then line up, hips over knees, shoulders over wrists. And be on fingertips if that seems like a better place for you to be. We're gonna work through some cat and cow, moving the spine. Inhale, look up, lift the tail, exhale, round. And I want you to go on your own pace with this. So when you get to a point where you feel like a pause would be useful, like spending a little bit more time somewhere that's interesting, please do that. If you're feeling like moving side to side would serve you better, honoring that for yourself, letting this be your own self-discovery, the svadhyaya, the self-study. Take another 2 full rounds of breath. It's fine if you don't match my pace or anybody else's pace. But when you do feel mostly evened out, we'll come up towards a more neutral spine. Now we are going to spend one more pose on each leg on our knees, so be sure to pad up your space. Maybe you grab that pillow and put it underneath your back knee. You're going to take your right foot, you want to bring it up so that it's outside of your right hand, and then wiggle that foot forward. Relax the right hip back. And then you're going to wiggle the foot in a little bit more. Kind of snuck in a half pose there just to get the hip a little bit more open. And then you're going to come up your hands on your front thigh. Now, as long as it doesn't hurt this knee, if you've got the back knee down, it's okay to let the knee come in front of the ankle, as long as you don't feel any pressure here. Once you start feeling pressure here, then it's time to back up and maybe you wiggle the foot forward instead. But if you can, allow yourself to come forward here. Just one exhale, don't go too far into it. We're gonna exhale, relax the hips. Now push into the front foot. You have a little bit more action in the hips. Feel the heart lifting up. We're really opening the thighs here and letting the heart start to rise up and forward, that really yeasty, lovey heart nonsense. Big breath in. And then you go ahead and pull the hips back. Take your hands down. We're going to slide the right leg back. Come back to your hands and knees. Good. And then bringing your left foot up outside of your hand to start off with, which is where it's much easier for it to get through to in that wide space. Think of that thigh bone instead of kind of jutting out to the side. Can you start to rest it back? Just kind of opening up some of that space. And then you'll start to wiggle the foot in a little bit more, so now it's where your left hand was, and you'll bring your hands up onto your front thigh. Now you can wiggle the foot forward. You can have some combination of foot forward and leaning forward, or you can just lean forward. We're really splitting the thighs open here. There's a lot going on. Give yourself an exhale to relax that front foot so you really get down as deep as you can. Then use that front foot to keep yourself put together, so we're not gonna just let the legs fall out of the hips. And then the heart starts to lift up and forward, expanding chest forward as much as this thigh is reaching back. Strong breath. One more round of inhale and exhale. And then start to pull back. Bring your hands down. And we're going to press down into the hands. Curl the toes, press back in a downward facing dog. Walk through your heels a little bit, releasing the backs of those legs. Strong armpits pushing down into the hands. And then coming to a forward fold, walking your feet up towards your hands up towards your feet. Bend your knees as much as you need to. Try to relax into this fold as much as possible. And really bend your knees. Give yourself space. We did some hamstring opening, but we're doing a lot of back bending, so we want to make sure that the back doesn't get too tight. That's the focus with this fold, is to try to relax that back as much as it will comply at this moment. Find something to soften as you breathe out. And then start walking your hands up your body, coming up to standing. And when you get to standing, we're gonna do a little bit of footwork here. You're gonna take your right foot and you're gonna roll around the toes and the ankle. So trying to get onto the toenail side of the foot. And then switch sides. I'll take the left leg and roll it around here. Moving the ankle and the toes and getting those metatarsals all worked out. And then come back to standing just parallel flat on your mat space. We're going to take the hands to the heart. I don't care how far forward you get with your chest or how much that leg lifts back behind you. We've done a little bit of work in Warrior 3 over the last couple of weeks, whereas really we're working on lifting the inner thighs to keep the hips balanced and not let the lifted leg let things get wonky. So start standing on one leg, doesn't matter which it is. Feel your heart start to rise. Send the other leg back. We're going to try to reach the toes back instead of the toes down, because toes down is going to make a strong, rigid back. Toes back is going to make an expansive heart. Neither is wrong. It's just a slightly different space here. So even if you're just barely hinged forward, you're going to think of reaching toes back, heart forward, lifting those inner thighs, lift the inner thighs, lift the inner thighs, breathe, and then come back. Wiggle. And then a visit on the other side. So taking your other toes back, we're going to send the heart forward, lift the inner thighs to take that back leg up, try to reach your toes back behind you so we're more expansive in the front body and the heart space. Lift those inner thighs, lift, lift. And exhale. Your exhale takes you back to the middle, and then give a little wiggle. You're gonna need a wall at some point, or having maybe a bookshelf or a door frame, anything where you can bring your hand, and then you're gonna be able to take your body away from it. So we're gonna take the hand slightly above the shoulder. You see my dark, I think I'm not that dark. Okay, so slightly above the shoulder, palm in. You wanna stand a little more than a foot away from the wall. And then what tends to happen is the shoulder kind of leads back behind us here. You just want to gently press the hand into the wall, maybe even take your opposite hand to the rib that's by the wall and just very, very gently guide it forward. You're not pulling it forward, you're guiding it forward. And just being aware of where the weight is in your feet. Maybe you start to lean the weight more towards your toes. And this can get really intense really fast. So go slow. When you start to feel it becoming too much, back off. Inhale. Exhale. And then just to be fun, you're going to wrap the other arm underneath, kind of turning yourself around, and then finding eagle arms for a moment or giving yourself a hug. Just a breath in and a breath out. And then releasing your arms. You're going to take the other one back. It's going to be just above your shoulder. So a little bit higher, not a lot. Like maybe my pinky finger is just barely above where my shoulder is. And you can use the opposite hand at your ribs to gently guide yourself forward so that your whole body, except for this arm, is kind of perpendicular to the wall. Keep noticing where it gets tight, because it just happens. Like, okay, what does the tightness feel like? What can I do to offer releasing that tightness? I'm not going to force my body to relax because it's probably not going to listen. But can I offer a release? One more exhale. And then you're going to take the arm that's not on the wall, you're going to wrap it underneath. And find eagle arms or give yourself a hug, or the elbows and the palms together can feel really nice. Big exhale. Release those arms. Wiggle things out if you need. Let's come back onto the mat. Oh, actually, you might want to be near your wall. I misspoke. We're going to actually go into dancer's pose. If you have a wall, a bookshelf, anything around that you might find useful for balancing, even if it's there just in case you may want to have that space. So we're going to work in a dancer's pose, which should have been fairly obvious from some of our preparatory things here. We have an expansion of the heart forward. You're going to grab that strap and loop it around your ankle if you're not really sure if holding the foot is going to be working out for you. So just give yourself that room. Always remember, hold as close to the foot as you can with the strap because it's easier to slide it out. So if you are going to be grabbing the foot, if that's where you want to take this today, try to grab the inside of your foot. If you've got that arm up in the strap, you're going to go ahead and summon that foot up. And then you're going to lift both of your inner thighs so that you're squared forward. And then as you start to push the foot back, the heart goes forward. You can take your hand on your heart, hand on the wall, maybe hand reaches forward. But think of taking up space like you are expanding like a big, beautiful, yeasty loaf of delicious bread. Awesome. Continue breathing. Take one more inhale. And then fall over. Hopefully not. Slowly release that leg. Give a good bounce around of the hips. And then working towards the other side. So same from the other end. You're going to reach right here, wrap it around the ankle. Get as close as you can to summon the foot up, or reach back, hold the inside of your foot. That's going to help to lift these inner leg lines. That's why we worked on Warrior 3, feeling that balancing of the pelvis. Now kick the foot back, reach the heart forward, finding that expansive space, yeah? It's not about folding my body into my foot. It's about opening the heart. Oh, balance. If you're still breathing, I hope, lifting the inner thighs, inhale, exhale, come back to center slowly, release that leg. And go ahead and give things a good wiggle out. Go ahead and set your strap off to the side. We won't really be using it. Let's do a couple more spine lengthening things to work out of that big back bend. We're going to come ready for Warrior 2 on the right side. So I will be nearer here. So when you find that space, trying to seek balance in the energy, even though the body is not symmetrical. Big breath in, big breath out. And through that exhale, reach forward, elbow on the knee. I'll take the left arm up and over. Soften that inner left shoulder, maybe get a little bit more space. Try to bring your bottom ribs forward slightly. This thigh is still pulling towards that back foot. Breath in. And breath out. Now reach yourself back up. We're going to go ahead and strain the leg for a moment, or straight-ish the leg just to give it a little bit of a break. And then we've done extended side angle. We're going to take side angle with a half bind. So bend into your knee. Bring the elbow down. Now this hand, you're going to bring the back of your hand into the small of your back, and then push the hand to the back so that we open this top shoulder. Try not to take your tailbone back. You still want to reach it towards the back foot. It's the heart. Maybe if you're feeling really good in your balance, the gaze turns upwards, and changing your focus is very disorienting to your balance. So just knowing that. Big breath in. Breathing out. And then you're going to unwind that arm. Go ahead and lift yourself up. Little visit to peaceful triangle here is lifting the heart up. And then release the arms down. We'll pivot the feet to face towards the other side, making these adjustments to come into Warrior Two on the left. Take a moment to seek out that balanced energy, even though it is not a balanced shape. It is not symmetrical. Breathing in. Exhaling and reaching forward, elbow down, extending side angle, so really lengthening through that top side. Tailbone back to your heel, ears out away from your tailbone. That heel, of course, the one back there, not down there. And relax that inner shoulder, breathe in, stay there, breathe out. And then reaching up, we'll come up, just straighten the leg for a moment to give it a little bit of a rest. And then bending back in, reaching forward, this time taking the half bind. So taking the back of your hand into the small of your back. Using that hand to open that shoulder, feeling the collarbones expand, the heart lifts out and upwards. This thigh pulls back. Trying to keep the head on the spine. Maybe it looks upwards, maybe not today, or maybe just not on this side. Or this side is easier, I don't know. Breathing in. Breathing out. And then reach it back up. Straighten the front leg, little visit to peaceful triangle here. Lifting the heart up to your hands. Inhale. Exhale, release. We're going to pivot all 10 toes to face forward and then come down into a forward fold. Make whatever adjustments you want to this. If there's a favorite variation of the arms that I did not just offer you, you take those. Let this be like choose your own adventure forward fold. Try to relax the back of your neck. Big breath in. Big breath out. Little bend in your knees. Start to bring yourself up. Take your time. We're down there for a while. I'm going to bring the feet in closer. So we're going to take chair pose, but with the legs not super close together. So thinking more of that hip width distance apart. And the reason that we keep legs closer together in chair, there's a lot of reasons. One of the big ones that you want to have them touching is to make sure that your knees don't knock in towards each other. So if you know that maybe taking a block in between your knees is really going to help with that, so your knees don't go wonky, go ahead and grab that block, or just know that you want to keep them trapped like so. So we're going to sit back in a chair, toes face forward, knees face forward, hips go back, reach your arms up. If your shoulders feeling cranky, I want you to open your elbows more. If your shoulders are feeling really expansive and you want to make steeple fingers, Viraludra, Charlie's Angels hands, you'll do that, because I find those Charlie's Angels hands are a really nice way to really lengthen the rib cage up and away from the hips, even as much as the hips rest back. Big breath in. Big breath out. Straighten the legs. Feel the fronts of your hips lift up. We're going to send the heart forward and then the arms opening out and back. Not in a way that we lean backwards or pinch into the back, but that we're fully expansive and lifted and open in this front body. Take another big breath in. Exhale, stack the spine, the hips, release your arms. Wiggle things. If you had that block around, go ahead and set it off to your side. We're going to come back up towards the front space of our mat. We'll be working through our usual transition back down onto the ground, moving into downward dog, and of course just skipping and going to child's or table pose if that serves you better. So finding the feet down underneath the hips, hip width apart, toes face forward. We'll find that same expansion in the front body as we take just this one inhale, reaching all the way up. And as you exhale, bend the knees, fold it down. Find your back, relaxing and unwinding a bit. One inhale to lift the heart up, feel your tailbone stretch back, and then plant the hands. Good planting, step your feet back. Index fingers face forward, elbows point to the floor, knees are bent as much as you need to feel the tailbone rising and the heels relaxing. Rest your head. Big breath in. Big sigh. And then we'll all come down onto the knees. Maybe knees are closer together this time so that as you come into child's pose, you can bring your arms back if that works for you. If you need having a pillow of your forearms under your head, giving yourself that. If this feels no good in your back, you might have knees wider and you still, of course, might have hips kind of up in the air. So adjust where you need to so that you feel soft wherever you're at. Two more breaths. And then bringing your hands in, pressing yourself up. We're all going to come down to a seat. So from this place, sliding your right leg in, you can keep it here or cross it over. Lift your left toes, adjust the flesh as necessary. We're going to hug onto this thigh. Right hand in nice and close. Lift behind the ears and soften your belly as you rotate over towards the right, sorry. Am I mirroring? I don't know. Inhaling. Exhaling. One more breath. And release the twist. Just take one exhale, twisting over to the other side real quick before coming back to the front. If you had the leg crossed over, you're going to unwind it. We're going to turn the knee out and then come forward towards your leg, just as much as feels interesting to you. Thinking of relaxing the back. Big exhale. Unlocking it back. Sending this leg forward. And instead taking the left side up and leave it there or cross it over. Lift those toes. It helps to cue the spine to lift as well. We're going to hug the thigh. Left arm in close. Inhale, lift the backs of the ears. Exhale, soften the belly into your twist. One more round of breath. Unwinding all the way to the other side. Just giving yourself an exhale there. Unwinding back to the front. Turning the knee over, uncrossing the leg if you need, and then drawing yourself forward over that right leg. Big breath in. Big breath out. And then start to walk it back. We're gonna bring the soles of the feet in together, wiggling around in your hips, adjusting what needs adjusting, and then coming forward, longish spine. Not straight to the point of pressure, but expanding forward. Big inhale. Big exhale. Lifting yourself up. We're going to start to come down onto our backs at this point, and I want to end with a restorative bridge pose. And sometimes I offer this with a block, and I know some of us maybe aren't like super big fans of using the block. It might feel a little bit tense. Feel free to do a full strong bridge pose and then coming down to your back when you feel like you've had enough breaths there. Or if you have like your cushion, your softer space, you can also use that, kind of squeezing it in and letting that rest underneath the sacrum when we get there. I just mentioned that because you're going to want it. We're going to start going down now. Before we go there, I'm going to come into fish pose, which we started off having that support underneath the chest. We're going to use all of the space that we've made to get there. So elbows underneath shoulders, collarbones expand. Head can go back if you want to, or staying more on the spine. Legs are straight or bent. Try to soften your jaw and let your heart continue to rise. Let's stay for just one more breath in. Exhale, let the heart kind of soften back down. We're going to widen the elbows and then come down onto our backs. Reach your arms open behind you if that feels okay in your back. If you feel tight, slide those feet in more. Big breath in. Big exhale. Then you're going to reach out and grab onto your pillow or your block, whatever it is. I'll show with the pillow. I'll probably move to the block, but you're going to slide your heels in like you're getting up in a bridge pose. You're going to move yourself up enough that you either have the cushion folded over or flat, or you take a block and you bring it right underneath the small part, or the small of your back, the flat part back there. Should feel very much balanced. Even if you're on the pillow, try not to have the toes dumping too much forward there. You see I have a much bigger arc in the middle of my spine. I want there to be a lift in my hips. So that'll be the place to go to. I love block. And if it's the block, it's on the low setting. And of course, always the golden rule of prop usage. If you feel like it's in the wrong place, you are probably correct and it would be useful to move it. So you might have to adjust a little higher or lower depending on how you feel, and we've got enough time where you should still be able to get a good run if you need to do some fidgeting to start off with. Give it about 5 more breaths from this point. Start pushing down into your feet. lifting your hips up. Slide the block or the pillow, whatever you've got, out from underneath you if it's still there. And then let the hips drop down, bring the knees up into your chest, give yourself a little rock around, massaging that low back down into the floor. And taking happy baby, reaching the feet up, holding onto the feet or the backs of your thighs. One more round of breath. And then releasing your feet and let them flop down onto the floor again, just kind of setting up by your hips here. And take the right leg and slide it open over the left. And then you're gonna push down a little bit in the right foot, just gonna hop your hips over towards the left. So that's gonna bring your hips a little bit more centered. As you drop the legs over towards the right, you might stop where you kind of catch on your left foot. You might go further, it's up to you. Arms are as far open as you want or need, wiggling the right shoulder out to open the left one a little bit if that's useful to you. Knowing that this is a big, big, big twist. So if you are like, I kind of prefer the foot catching me, be there. Let this be yummy. These very finishing poses, hopefully helping us to feel more well-rounded and softened. Should be serving us, no longer quite challenging us anymore at this point. We've done enough of that. One more full round of breath. Really release into your exhale. And starting to unwind the legs as you come back to the center. You'll have to do a little fidget to find center in your hips. And then crossing the right thigh on top of the left. A little pressure down in the left foot to hop your hips a little bit over to the right. And then as you go into your twist, now your hips are maybe a little bit more center. You might wiggle that left arm to open the right side a little bit more. You go as far as it feels good. And backing off if that changes. One more full round of breath. And coming back to the center, unwinding your legs, adjusting your hips back to the middle if you find that they are off. And then we'll start to settle into Shavasana. So taking whatever adjustments you need before getting there, choosing flat on your back or knees bent in constructive rest, seated meditation, anything at all. Rest very well. As you start to come back to your body, feel the rising and the falling of your heart space with your breath. The expansion in the area. Everything that all of this beautiful heart work adds to that experience. Eventually, start to roll yourself over to one side, giving yourself gratitude for your practice, maybe a belly rub to somebody. And eventually coming up to your own version of a comfortable seat. With your hands at your heart continuing to rise and open. All of this love that we receive and give. Sealing our practice with an Om. Bowing down to the love in our hearts, to the light within each of us. Namaste. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thanks, April, as usual. It was fabulous.
Yay! Thanks for being here.
Yes.
Be
thank
good.
you
Be
much.
well.
Thanks.
Be happy. Toots.
Bye, Melinda. Bye, Judy. Bye, Ruth.
Bye. Take care.
Take care.